Hi, good evening, and welcome. Thank you for joining us. One moment. In compliance with Chapter 551 Open Meetings of the Texas Government Code, I call to order a public hearing meeting of the Board of Trustees of the Austin Independent School District for Thursday, February 26, 2026 at 5:02 p.m. A quorum of the board is physically present at the Austin ISD Central Office to conduct this meeting. This meeting is being broadcast on cable channel 22 through Spectrum as down broadband and on channel 99 through AT&T Uverse. Closed captioning in English is available on these platforms for individuals who are deaf or hard of hearing. Welcome and thank you for joining us. First is an opportunity for the public to share comments with the board. This time allows speakers to comment publicly about the district annual report and/or our targeted improvement plans and local improvement plans. While we wish we could respond or provide feedback, the Texas Open Meetings Act does not authorize a board to discuss or respond to comments or complaints from members of the public if the subject is not on the meeting agenda. Members of the public wishing to participate in the public testimony portion of our meeting called a dedicated AISD phone line in advance of the meeting to sign up to speak in person or to audio record their remarks. We have one person signed up to speak in person and 5 who left a recorded message. Our in-person testimony is Quitlo Guerra, and we're ready for you when you are. Thanks.
He's got 2 items.
Okay.
My first comment is about. Press the mic button.
Good evening. My first comment is about these targeted improvement plans and by extension the turnaround plans. I think too often it's what's forgotten is that there are students at the schools right now. It's great that we're making plans to improve instruction and learning in the future, but those schools need help right now. We cannot and should not wait to enact these plans when there are student and staff that need support at this very moment. The school my kids attend, Pecan Springs, has had a tip. We're also getting a tap, but we're short-staffed and under-resourced right now. So I'm asking for the trustees, the superintendent and his staff to go beyond these targeted improvement plans, go beyond these turnaround plans, and see what you can do to assign more dedicated staff right now. Not staff that's assigned to a region or several campuses, but staff that works at that school only. So please go beyond the plans to do what you can do to help now.
Thank you, and we know you have 2 comments, so ready when you are for your second.
Trustees, today you're receiving a report prepared by the administration that details, among other things, matriculation and program enrollment across the district. The report is insufficient because it does not disaggregate the data geographically or in terms of vertical teams and feeder patterns. As a result, you are not seeing what the rest of us are living, and that is an inequitable, racist, white supremacist school system. There are well-funded and well-supported courses and programs at Westside, mostly wealthy and white schools that are not offered at all at Title I Eastside campuses serving mostly Black and brown students. Program participation is governed largely by choice sheets, which students are filling out right now. The district claims these choice sheets are universal, but that is not true. The choice sheets lay bare the inequitable, racist, white supremacist school system that we have yet to disrupt. The long-range plan calls for the establishment of baseline academics so that every family knows what they can expect at any Austin ISD school, and yet we have not done enough to ensure that these programs are available to everyone. Commit to making the systemic changes that help us balance enrollment and more equitably distribute these resources so that the reports more accurately reflect the lived experiences of the staff, families, and students at all Austin ISD schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate you being here. We will now play recorded messages for public testimony, so please listen carefully.
Hi, my name is Patrick Davis. I'm a parent with students at both Keeling and at Blackshear. All of my kids walk to school. I'm calling to ask the board to intervene and prevent the superintendent from closing Blackshear. My message is very simple. We ask you to kindly save Blackshear. Thank you very much.
My name is Rachel Bowden, and I'm a Blackshear parent. On today's agenda is Blackshear's LIP, but next year we inherit Oak Springs TAP. Since the board rejected a restart at Oak Springs, the TAP is built on Blackshear's foundation of success. But Blackshear can't be separated from its location. We need stability to focus on academics, and closing Blackshear sets us up to fail. In fact, the district expects 10 schools will continue to fail. I'm concerned that construction at Oak Springs just allows AISD to delay real academic progress for even longer by allowing for yet another restart. If our school fails, it will be a direct result of AISD decisions. New buildings can't manifest academic success. I urge you to look at alternatives to keep Blackshear open by designing Oak Springs to serve our early learners and allowing Blackshear to continue for older students. Blackshear can't be considered in isolation. Campbell, Zavala, and Inver Valley are also under-enrolled. AISD promised district-wide boundary changes. Not only was that process unjustifiably halted, I now hear you may not resume it at all, despite promises not to bow to political pressure. These hard decisions should have been made in 2019, and failure to follow through now further erodes trust.
Hi, this is Meg Karedi calling about Agenda Item 5.1, specifically Blackshear's Targeted Improvement Plan. Right now, it's unclear on the campus's final location. Please do not make this decision now. It's not going to set Blackshear up for success with this Targeted Improvement Plan. This should be part of a long-term discussion AISD has planned for Phase 2 of consolidation. And that our school would close or move was thrown in at the last minute with these turnarounds planned school closures. We didn't have the time or money to mount a big campaign like Brickell Woods or Maplewood. And the way the district has gone about this has been unfair to students, staff, and administrators. You essentially pit two Title I schools against each other in this rushed decision on the school's final location. And this kind of way of doing business, this is why East Austin doesn't trust AISD. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Laura DeBlane. I'm a Blackshear parent, and I'm calling to support taking advantage of this window of opportunity to construct a new campus at the Oak Springs site. And I'm also calling to request that a decision on the location of the Blackshear and Oak Springs combined campus is delayed until district-wide impacts related to TAP consolidations, campus program moves, school accountability results for year 2025-2026, attrition due to charter recruitment and vouchers, and individual school choice in response to boundary changes can at least be partially assessed. Many people have observed that specifically planning for a campus move in a couple of years creates a way to get around state accountability requirements by starting a new campus, and I don't appreciate optics which appear to plan for student failure. There's a concern that a decision about Blackshear is being rushed while decisions about other non-TAP elementaries and other areas of Austin are being further delayed. So I request a decision on Blackshear is also further delayed in order to effectively respond to system changes and allow communities to better prioritize student success together.
Hello, my name is Mark Capraro. I am the parent of two children at Blackshear Elementary School, and I am calling to implore you to delay a decision on the consolidated school, and obviously to keep Blackshear open, a school that we love very much. Also, I'm asking you very pointedly, please do not continue to exploit the racial dynamics of the East Side to ram this plan through. And I would really implore, again, the board to find ways to fix the wounds that you have already inflicted on us with this plan. So please, again, take the time and think about what you're doing here. Thank you very much.
Thank you. That completes all of our calls. Thank you to everyone who took the time to call in and share your perspective with us. And as a reminder, you may also share comments with the board by email at trustees@austinisd.org. Next up is item number 3, a presentation on the 2024-2025 Texas Academic Performance Report required by the state of all Texas districts. And Mr. Segura, would you please introduce this item?
Yes, President Boswell and trustees. Tonight, to present the district annual report, I have joining me Dylan Feenan, Director of Campus and District Accountability, Dr. Marianne Maxwell, Assistant Superintendent of Academics, and Ms. Katrina Montgomery, our Chief Financial Officer. So team, take it away.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. We are pleased to present the district's annual report for school year 2024-25. Statute requires that each district's Board of Trustees holds a public hearing to review the annual report within 90 days of receiving the Texas Academic Performance Report, or TAPER, from the Texas Education Agency. The TAPER report is a summative report for each campus and district in the state. While the TAPER report for school year 24-25 were released this past December, it's important to note that most of the data in the TAPER has been publicly available for several months. These performance reports have been used in the completion of the district scorecard and have provided the foundation for campus and district improvement planning, board reporting, and performance monitoring over the past 8 months. Next slide. The annual report is required under Texas Education Code 39306, which requires publishing the annual report, holding a public hearing, and widely disseminating the report throughout the district. The complete annual report is available on the district website, and a direct link is provided in this presentation. There are 6 components of the annual report: the taper for the district and for each campus, the district's PEIMS financial report, the district's accreditation status, progress on campus performance objectives, reports on violent or criminal incidents, and reports on post-secondary readiness. We're going to start by examining the taper report, and we will look at student performance, enrollment, demographic data. The following slides contain highlights of the taper. We will go through these slides quickly to provide a sample of the extensive information that is available in these reports. STAR is the state's testing program for students in grades 3 through 12 and is based on state curriculum standards in reading, writing, mathematics, science, and social studies. STAR tests are designed to measure what students are learning in each grade and whether or not they are ready for the next grade. Much of the taper report is related to performance on the STAR assessment. But the taper also includes student and staff demographic information, enrollment, attendance, graduation rates, indicators of post-secondary readiness, and post-secondary outcomes. Financial reports are also available through the online PEIMS financial reports. In this first graph, we're going to take a look at district STAR performance. The data shows general positive trends in students meeting grade level or above across most demographic groups with slight year-to-year improvements. The overall district performance increased slightly from 49% to 50% at meets grade level and above. Highest growth was seen among Asian students, who increased by 2 percentage points. Several groups saw a 1 percentage point increase, including students that identify as African American, Hispanic, white, those enrolled in special education programming, and those with the federal label of economically disadvantaged. Performance remained stable for those who identified as 2 or more races and students who are emergent bilingual. Overall, large achievement gaps persist, and you can clearly observe them in the graph provided. In the next 3 slides, we're going to look at a comparison between the state and Austin ISD when it comes to students that have a federal label of economically disadvantaged. In this first slide, we're going to look at reading STAR performance results. One chronic achievement gap within Austin ISD is performance among students with the federal label of economically disadvantaged. This slide displays reading STAR performance for the state of Texas in blue and Austin ISD in red. In every grade level, we see achievement gaps in reading when compared to the state. The gap ranges from 11% to 13%, depending on the grade level. The highest performance level among this group in Austin ISD can be seen in 5th grade and in 8th grade. On the next slide, we will look at the same thing, but in relation to math performance. This slide details the math STAR performance specifically for economically disadvantaged students. As with reading data, we compare 2024 Austin ISD performance in red against 2024-25 state averages in blue. Performance for this subgroup in Austin ISD consistently trails the state average for the same demographic across all grade levels. District scores for EcoDis students range from a low of 11% in 7th grade to a high of 26% in 5th grade. In comparison, the state average for the same demographic is is significantly higher, ranging from a low of 24% to a high of 37%. Within the district, the highest proficiency for this group, once again, can be seen in 5th grade and in 8th grade. Lastly, when we look at this dynamic, we're going to look at the EOC results. In all 5 end-of-course exams, Austin ISD students perform lower than the state average. The most significant disparity can be seen in Algebra 1, where the district trails the state by 15 percentage points. The narrowest performance gap can be seen in U.S. history, where the district is trailing the state by 5 percentage points. We're going to shift gears in the next slide and look at attendance rate. Attendance in the TAPER report is a lagging indicator. The blue bars represent attendance rates for school year 23-24, and the red bars represent attendance rates for school year 22-23. On this graph, we see a universal positive trend. We have a rare clean sweep. Every single demographic group shows an increased attendance rate in school year 23-24. While Asian and white students have the highest raw attendance rates, the rate of growth is highest among students receiving special education services, which was up by 0.8 percentage points, and students that identify as Black or African American, which is up by 0.6 percentage points. The district attendance rate increased from 90.9% to 91.3%. On this slide, we're looking at the four-year state longitudinal graduate rates. We're looking at a year-over-year comparison between the class of 2023 and the class of 2024. The overall trend is that the district average dips slightly by 0.8 percentage points, moving from 93.1% down to 92.3%. Despite the overall district dip, our students receiving special education services achieved a massive gain, jumping 8 percentage points from 80.1% to 88.1%. This is the most significant positive outlier in the chart. We also saw a 2.5 percentage point increase among students who receive emergent bilingual services. Next, we'll take a look at some of our post-secondary readiness
We need to
data.
pause for a minute. We don't
sorry.
need to pause for a minute.
Okay. Next, we're going to take a look at some of our post-secondary readiness indicators, in specific, the college, career, and military readiness data. In this graph, we'll examine students' CCMR readiness rates. Every single student demographic improved their CCMR readiness rates from school year 22-23 to school year 23-24. The most significant gains were made among emergent bilingual students, who grew by 11.5 percentage points, and students that identify as Black or African American, which grew by 8.2 percentage points. These two groups outpaced the district average, effectively narrowing the achievement gap. The district's overall readiness rate increased by 5.5 percentage points, rising to 87.8. This increase was driven by these broad-based improvements across all demographic groups. Next, we're going to take a look at the district's student race and ethnicity profile. Austin ISD is a majority-minority district. Hispanic students are the largest demographic, comprising the majority of the student body at 54.4%. Together, Hispanic and white students make up nearly 85% of the total population. African American students represent 6% of the population. Asian students represent 4.8%. Students that identify as two or more races are 4.1% of the population, and American Indians and Pacific Islanders represent less than 1% of the population. Student enrollment in 24-25 dropped by 564 students. The total student population was 72,175, and this represents a drop from the previous school year's total of 72,739. If we look further at subgroup demographics and program enrollment, we see that the student population is nearly evenly divided by economic status, with 51.1% classified as economically disadvantaged and 48.9% classified as non-economically disadvantaged. A significant portion of the student body, 48.5%, is considered at risk. 31.4% of students are identified as emergent bilingual. When we shift and take a look at program enrollment, we see that bilingual and ESL enrollment stands at 31%, which aligns closely with emergent bilingual demographic data. 18.4% of students are receiving special education services, and 13.9% of students participated in gifted and talented programs. When we take a look at student demographic data in relationship to teachers' race and ethnicity, the most striking insight is the inverse relationship between the student and teacher populations regarding our two largest demographic groups. When we examine the Hispanic population, we observe an underrepresentation of Hispanic educators. 54.4% of students identify as Hispanic, while 37.1% of the staff identify as Hispanic. When we examine the white population, we observe an overrepresentation of white educators compared to the student body. White teachers account for 50.2% of the staff, while 30.4% of the students identify as white. Other demographic groups show closer alignment between students and staff. Black or African American student staff representation is nearly equal, with 6% of students and 6.6% of teachers identifying as Black or African American. Asian representation is fairly close, with 4.8% of students and 3.8% of teachers identifying as Asian. While the student population is predominantly Hispanic, the teaching staff is predominantly white. This suggests a disparity between the cultural or racial makeup of the students and the educators serving them. When we look closer at teachers in terms of years of experience and degree type, when you look at teachers' experience level, the district has a mix of new energy and experienced professionals, though it skews slightly towards early career teachers. The largest single group of teachers falls into the 1 to 5 year experience range. When we combine them with beginning teachers, roughly 42% of the teaching staff has 5 years or less experience. Austin ISD also has a strong background of veteran educators. Teachers with 6 to 20 years of experience make up roughly 43% of the workforce. And lastly, if we look at our highly experienced educators, those with 21 plus years of experience, they account for approximately 15% of our teaching staff. When we look at teachers by the type of degrees they hold, we see that our teaching staff is highly educated, with a significant proportion holding advanced degrees. The vast majority of teachers, 70%, hold a bachelor's degree. Approximately 29% of Austin ISD educators hold an advanced degree, that being either a master's or a doctorate. A small number of staff are listed as no degree, which typically refers to specific vocational or technical certifications rather than traditional post-secondary degrees. And now we'll transition to our PEIMS data.
Thank you very much, Dylan. Now we're going to go over our PEIMS Financial Standard Report. The PEIMS Financial Report is the Public Education Information Management System, and PEIMS reviews financial data and reporting services to ensure that all public school funding is appropriately accounted for and available for review. So this is the 24-25 allocations of our funds. So in the far left column, you see all of the different ways that we use or do disbursement. So you have operating expenditures recapture, then you have general fund and the percent of how it's allocated, and then the amount spent per student. And then next column, you have all funds, percent, and then the amount per student. So if you look at the top two rows, you can see that the majority of our funds are spent where we would want in operating expenditures, and then the other portion is recapture. Recapture paid for 24-25 was $821 million, which is 45.6% of our total disbursements. And then now we'll go over the 24-25 district accreditation status. If you look here, 24-25, the district received an accreditation status of accredited. 24-25 first rating, we received a superior achievement, an A. 2025 accountability rating, the district received a C, 79 overall. And the 24-25 special education determination status is needs assistance. Now I'll turn it over to Dr. Maxwell.
Thank you. So this slide shows how we actually performed in the various domains of the rating status for the district. So it was 79 out of 100. And you can see by looking at this slide that we actually scored pretty consistently in the different areas, either mid to high C's as well, mid to high 70s for student achievement, school progress, and for closing the gap. So that was pretty consistent performance across the district. The next slide just talks a little bit more about the determination status for special education. We were assigned a needs assistance status. There could be 4 different areas: meets requirements, needs assistance, needs intervention, or needs substantial intervention. As needs assistance, that really labels based on a few factors of results-driven accountability, so our RDA for special education, and also some federally required elements. The next slides talk a little bit about our district scorecard and our HB3 goals. Each campus is required to have a campus improvement plan that states campus performance objectives. What we do is we align those performance plans or the improvement plans and the performance objectives within it, with the strategic plan of the district and certainly our scorecard. And our scorecard is evaluated and reported on annually as far as the summative results go, and of course, much more frequently as far as progress measures toward that scorecard. So that is all aligned to our campus performance objectives. And this is a snapshot of the goals. The next slide for our district scorecard. These are just the goals. We have goals and constraints, but as far as the goals go, when we report on those, we include the past data of how we have been performing in each of those areas and our yearly targets. So you can see goals 1, 2, and 3 are around literacy and numeracy outcomes and our CCMR outcomes as well. The next slide shows those are aligned, of course, to the HB3 goals that we're required to have as a district. You can see our performance on those goals last year according to our annual targets. Overall, literacy, the goal is to increase from, on the STAR test for the students that are scoring at the MEATS level, from 47% to 59%. Last year, our target was 49%, and we met that target at 49%. The numeracy was set to improve from 39% to 55% by the year 2029. Last year, that target was 40%, and we met that target. We exceeded that target at 42%. And likewise, and we've reported this, of course, in our summatives as well, the CCMR target was also, well, it's set over, it's lagging indicator, but over the course of 5 years to increase to 54.6%, and we exceeded that target last year as well at 49.5% for that annual target. Next, we include the report on violent or criminal incidents on campuses. The next slide shows what that has looked like over the past few years with the total number of offenses and the percent of students disciplined. You can see between 22 and 23 and the 23-24 year, there was actually a small increase in those numbers and the percent of students disciplined. And then last year we saw a sizable decrease in that from 1.63% down to 1.43%. And then the next slide actually details out a little bit more on what those incidents were within this category. So you can see there at the bottom, those are the totals. Again, the decrease to 1.43%. Overall, with the total numbers from 1,185 from last year to 1,023 this year, that's a 14% decline in offenses. The largest decreases we found were in drug offenses, assaults with injury, and aggravated sexual assaults. And this is a record low for the past several years. It was a decrease from last year, but it was also under the numbers and the percentages that we were at in 22-23. And then our final section talks about post-secondary performance. For the next slide, next two slides actually talk about the enrollment in Texas institutions of higher education. We can see there is a gap. The district, now this is a significantly lagging indicator. This is from 2021 and 2022. So as this report is last year's report, it's even further lagging from the years before that. So that we can see several years ago the gap between the district and the state. There was growth in several areas for Hispanics, emergent bilinguals, and economically disadvantaged students. And also we can see that in those years there was a notable enrollment drop for American Indian. And on the next slide, it actually talks about numbers for where those students are going. And the total you can see there highlighted in the yellow with 2022 showing for where our students were, how many students were enrolling for 1,833, and there's a drop down in 2023, 1,694. It's important to note as well that this is data only for Texas Texas institutions of higher education, and so the numbers are actually quite a bit larger. They're just substantially larger, I would say, for when we're looking at the National Student Clearinghouse data. So instead of for National Student Clearinghouse, we have 2,626 total enrolled graduates for the class of 2022 and 2,568 for 2023. So there's still a drop, but it was a little bit of a smaller drop, and overall that is how many are enrolled in higher institutions. And that is the completion of our presentation, and we open it up for questions.
Thank you very much. So we have an hour budgeted for this. We can just want to be thoughtful about how we're using our time. So does anyone have questions? Do trustees have questions?
Hour for both.
Hour for both. Oh, we have two presentations. Yes, correct. I forgot that we had our other one, our taps and our tips. Yes. Do we want to listen to our TAP presentation and ask questions, or do we want to ask questions about this now? Does anyone have questions about this report? All right, thank you. I know we've seen a lot of this data before. Really appreciate it here in one place for our trustees and our community. Thank you all very much. All right, next up is a presentation about the 25-26 targeted improvement plans and local improvement plans. And Mr. Segura, would you please introduce this item?
Thank you, President Boswell. I'd like to invite Dylan Finan, Director of Campus and District Accountability, Dr. Angel Wilson, Assistant Superintendent of Secondary School Leadership, and Jennifer Pace, Assistant Superintendent of Elementary School Leadership, to provide the presentation alongside myself. All right. All right, so this is the 2025-2026 Target Improvement Plans, and one of the things that I want to note before we get started is that these plans have already been submitted to the agency and accepted. Back in November, on November 21st, when we submitted our turnaround plans, these were all included within that. The agency just requests that we get these approved by the board by this time, which is why they came back around. As we move forward, there are two things, two different types of plans that we'll be sharing today. The Target Improvement Plan, which are campuses with a federal accountability of comprehensive support and improvement, and or receive a first and acceptable account, are required to develop and submit a targeted improvement plan. The TA submission deadline is November 21st, as I just stated, and the board approvals by March 31st. So we are a little bit ahead, but certainly well past when it was actually submitted to the agency and since approved. And then new are the local improvement plans. These are campuses identified with the federal accountability as additional targeted support, ATS or targeted support, TSI, and or receive a first or second overall D rating following an unacceptable rating. One of the things to note is that these are retained locally and are not submitted to the agency. And again, they're required to be board approved by March 31st. When you look at the different strategies, if we can go through the slides, we're on slide 3 now. There are, and we've shared this before, 6 different strategies that districts can use to implement turnaround plans or improvement plans, and you see those here. They vary based on intensity, and one of the things that I've said before, and I think it's worth saying again, is that as you move down and accumulate unacceptable ratings, the restrictions and the interventions that are expected become more rigorous. And so you've heard us talk about turnaround plans before, and some of those that were previously brought forward included strategies that were restarts or partner managed. In this instance, out of the 6, what we're really looking to do is to lean into the intensive curriculum and instruction improvement. This is acknowledgement that there are great things happening at our schools with additional resources and a focus on the work and the framework. We're very confident these schools will kind of improve, and ultimately exit any accountability risk or concern. And so with that, I'll hand it to Dylan to take us through the next couple of slides.
Okay, so on this slide, we can see the campuses that were required to write a targeted improvement plan in school year 25-26. There's 12 campuses required to write these plans. 8 campuses were mandated to write a TIP due to a state consecutive unacceptable rating count of 1, or otherwise referred to as UA1. Those are identified with asterisks next to the campus name. 7 of these campuses also have a federal label. 4 campuses were mandated to write a TIP due to a federal label of comprehensive support and improvement. Next slide, please. On this slide, we can see the campuses that were required to write local improvement plans. In school year 25-26, 16 campuses were required to write local improvement plans. 5 campuses were required to write a LIP because they got a D rating. 3 of those also had a federal label. 11 campuses were required to write a LIP because they had a federal label, 9 due to a label of targeted support and improvement, which is referred to as TSI, and 2 due to a label of additional targeted support, which is referred to as ATS. The state requirements for campuses implementing targeted improvement plans and local improvement plans are outlined on the slide above. For campuses implementing targeted improvement plans, the goal is for them to leverage student growth metrics to get a C rating in Domain 2A and Domain 3 of the TEA's accountability system. Campuses will leverage growth for 1 to 2 years, then they should be in a position by year 3 to maintain a C rating or higher through student achievement metrics. Austin ISD provides multiple coaching sessions for each TIP campus in collaboration with the district assessment and academics teams to ensure campuses can accurately monitor student achievement and develop appropriate intervention strategies to maximize accountability outcomes. For campuses implementing local improvement plans, the strategies are much more nuanced and specific to each campus's needs, as outlined in the LIPs provided to the board. We have a CDA staff member that provides one-on-one coaching to each LIP campus. These coaching sessions identify the reason for identification and develop campus-specific strategies to exit the label and maintain an overall C or higher average rating.
Good evening, trustees. Superintendent Segura. Wanted to share information about our elementary school targeted improvement plans. Our targeted improvement plan work at the elementary level is centered on strengthening core instruction first, and then using data to target supports for students who need additional acceleration. So our targeted improvement plan campuses are focused on strengthening Tier 1 instruction, especially through the use of high-quality instructional materials, and to take that just a bit further, even working to implement them as intended to maintain the rigor. Additionally, sharpening PLC practice, and that's especially focused on lesson internalization and really becoming familiar with the facilitation points for each lesson. And then using student data to drive targeted supports, and that's really reinforcing our MTSS systems. District and campus teams are providing coaching, leadership support, and monitoring to ensure strong implementation, especially through observation and feedback cycles. And so we've been really focused on providing bite-sized, high-leverage action steps that can be easily observed on the follow-up visit and that will move the needle in terms of student outcomes. And also just instructional leadership development, and that's across all levels, principals, teachers, coaches, executive directors, and this is really in an effort to sustain the work. Additionally, there are some unique supports, a variety of unique supports that are kind of campus specific. That kind of includes variances in staff coaching, also student interventions and resources, enrichment programs, and wraparound services. And so some of that contributes to variation in the targeted improvement plans. But overall, our targeted improvement plans are helping campuses bring focus and urgency to work already in motion to improve student outcomes. I'll turn it over to Dr. Wilson.
Good evening. This next slide will highlight the 2 secondary campuses that are currently implementing targeted improvement plans, and they are very different and unique based on the campus type. So we have General Marshall Middle School and Rosedale School. For General Marshall Middle School, I am going to highlight 3 key areas and strategies of support that we are working to sharpen our saw and strengthen our muscle in this year, and then you are free to read the rest of those bulleted items on your own. So at General Marshall Middle School, we are focused on building strong instructional systems that ensure every student is progressing towards grade level mastery. Our improvement plan is rooted in coherence, data transparency, and instructional rigor. So one of the cool things going on at General Marshall Middle School this year that is new is that Marshall Middle School was designated as a lighthouse campus for our learning labs. Our learning labs are a cohort of about 8 middle school campuses. The principals and admin teams meet on a regular basis at General Marshall Middle School. This campus welcomes us and opens their doors for us to be able to observe instruction primarily in the content areas of math and ELAR, and we are able to learn together collaboratively as admin teams. We have deliverables that we go back out and execute, such as videotaping our PLCs, having feedback conferences, whether it's with our instructional leadership team or feedback conferences with teachers and staff. And then Marshall Middle School also receives intense coaching throughout the Learning Lab model that focuses on other areas as well. This actually helps all leaders to build instructional capacity and excellence across the campus and beyond. A second key element or strategy that we are using at Marshall Middle School this year and at all of our middle school campuses is high-quality instructional materials. This is not anything that is new, but the effective implementation, support, follow-up, feedback, and progress monitoring is what we have focused on for this year. So we are fully implementing Sabis My Perspectives and STEM scopes for math, literacy and STEM scopes for math and science. Our focus is not just on textbook and curriculum adoption, but it's on deep implementation and lesson internalization. And you'll hear us mention a lot about lesson internalization when it comes to the work we are doing in our professional learning communities or PLCs. Teachers and administrators participate in structured PLC cycles to ensure materials are delivered not only with fidelity, but also to the rigor and the level and extent that we should be going with the TEAC standard when we see this flow out in the classroom. And then lastly, PLC professional development. They are structured, they are purposeful, and they are centered on standards alignment. Are PLCs new at Marshall? No, they're not. We just have, we've articulated the format, the flow, the focus, and the structure, and we've been able to streamline those supports on standards alignment, lesson internalization, and also on student work analysis. Administrators are trained alongside teachers to ensure consistent feedback and monitoring, and this also ensures that alignment happens from the classroom, instruction, to campus leadership. The work at Marshall Middle School is about building sustainable systems, not quick fixes, so that instructional excellence becomes the norm and not the exception. And then if you look at the right column on this slide, we have our special campus, Rosedale School. We're all familiar with Rosedale School. We know that this school serves students with significant and specialized needs that are unique and individualized, and we have a dedicated team of instructional leaders, administration team, and support staff that are truly committed to delivering on the promise to every child and ensuring that they meet their fullest potential at the Rosedale School. Our improvement strategies for the Rosedale School are designed to ensure strong academic pathways, graduation clarity, and post-secondary readiness for every student. You may be wondering why Rosedale has a tip to begin with. So I am going to highlight the second bullet and go into a little more detail of just the training, the work with data clarity, and just sharpening our saw with data literacy, and also PEIMS coding, which plays a huge factor with the Rosedale School and the tip that we are currently implementing there. So graduation coding and PEIMS alignment. We are providing targeted training on graduation coding in partnership with PEIMS and special education transition teams. This ensures accurate coding, proper credit alignment, and protects student graduation pathways. This work is critical to improving accountability outcomes and ensuring that students are not unintentionally miscoded. We are providing targeted training on graduation coding in partnership with PEIMS and special education transition teams. And then we are also conducting regular data reviews with campus administration, department chairs, and the district transition specialists, and also our CCMR department. This cross-functional collaboration ensures that students are supported academically and for post-secondary transition planning. So across both campuses, our approach is consistent: strong instructional systems, data transparency, cross-department alignment, focused professional learning, and also targeted student supports. These are not isolated strategies, but they are integrated systems designed to accelerate student outcomes and ensure sustainable improvement. All right, we are now ready for question and answer.
Thank you all very much. Trustees, do we have any questions about these plans? Trustee Hunter.
Thank you. I do have a question about the General Marshall plan. Do we know how many new teachers are at General Marshall?
No, but in a second, Ms. Presley will probably have that number.
Okay. Because I'm wondering if there's a plan about that, around that, right? So I know you have a plan around PLCs and teacher support, which is great, but if you're new, you're still learning on the job and you're doing this thing.
Well,
So-
I can, that's a good question, Trustee Hunter. I can answer that this is the first year where General Marshall has all 3 grade levels. So we've had a phase-in process, so I can tell you every 8th grade teacher on the campus is a new teacher. And also, in the course of building a campus from the ground up, we have seen teacher attrition at a pretty high number for a startup campus. And so we are working a lot with new teacher support and campus support because we have a pretty significant number of new teachers to probably each grade level. So you're right, the support is not only just for PLC, but we have on-the-job embedded coaching, development, and support in the classrooms to be able to help with the lesson implementation that flows from the lesson internalization from PLC work.
Okay, thank you. And then for the superintendent, I just have to say that there's a glaring missing. We have our parents, and I just don't see where we are bringing them in. We got to get them in, right? They have to know. I've said many times, parents see a 50 and they think their kid did 50% of the work, not that we're giving a kid a chance. So just really educating our parents about the system that they're sending their kids to every day, and really, we know you're busy. Here's a question a week or whatever, just whatever we can bring them in more so that they understand what's going on. Because I had a principal tell me one time, parents can be very involved, but at the point at which they're involved, you might not like it. So let's get ahead of the curve before they're angry or they want to know, like, why isn't my kid matriculating? Why can't my kid read? So how can we, as part of, not necessarily the rebuilds, but as part of our reconstruction of these schools and these tips and these lips, to like really bring the parents in?
Yes, that is a part that we haven't necessarily highlighted in the plan. The tip is basically like a skeletal outline or framework, so it's very bare bones, very minimal, but this is the work that we're working with our executive directors and our school leadership teams weekly and daily in the classrooms and on the campus. We have our campuses tiered for support. So General Marshall is a Tier 3 campus. With the secondary team, it's evenly distributed to where every ED only has between 1 to 2 Tier 3 campuses. And so General Marshall receives visits and school supports at least once a week, but many times it's 2 to 3 times a week. And one of the things that we've been working on has been the ESF levers, those 5 levers. One of them has been to focus deeply and strategically on parent and community engagement. So at our PD that we attended with General Marshall when we returned January 5th, teachers and staff were they were divided into different groups, and we looked at the map data. One of the things that we've heard loud and clear, Trustee Hunter, from Trustee Kaufman, many of you, is that it's one thing for the teacher to know the data and the admin to know the data, but does the parent know where the child stands? And so we allowed time during that PD day and for every PD day for teachers to call parents, to send emails, and to make those personalized touches and to send home data points. So this is something new this year, but every parent has been updated on a regular basis when it comes to MAP BOY, MAP MOY, other interim data points in between to ensure that there's a strong bridge and partnership between the school to home.
And then one final question. I want to go back to what Mr. Guillermo said. I know we are spread thin and resources are, we're literally spinning straw into gold here. But you said EDs have no more than 3?
Secondary. Not elementary. Elementary has a bigger caseload.
Yeah, and this is what I'm saying. So the one thing that parent just asked us was, yeah, having people transient and coming, that's great, that's wonderful, but where's our dedicated support? And I'm thinking where we see the need in these campuses, we're gonna have to figure out a way to have that dedicated support. And we have our budget talks coming up, and we really are going to need to, we're at that point, the point that we told people we were going to get to, where we're gonna have to have conversations about we cannot do everything. And so we don't wanna touch the classroom, but what can we do to ensure? So we're almost bidding against ourselves sometimes when it comes to this type of thing. So just want to keep that in the forefront of our mind as we begin looking at the budget, at the new budget talks.
Yeah, and Trustee Hunter, I really appreciate you bringing that up. The community member that spoke here, one of the things that we have seen as we move into these turnaround plans and are like really investing resources and going through these transitions is that each school is going through it in a different way. And there have been instances where we've gotten feedback from the community where in some cases they'd like to go faster and really see some of the things that we intend to implement in the fall semester be brought into the spring semester. And that's something that we are absolutely exploring. We tend to really bring the communities together, hear community voice, hear staff voice, hear voice, and then make an adjustment. And I think we're at the point now, given what we've seen over the last couple of weeks as some of these schools come together, that we can make some refinements. And for that school specifically, I think there's an opportunity for sure. But yeah, I can provide an update to the board in the next board update. And the community member and I have already had a conversation about some things to consider.
Yeah, and I just wanted to add a little bit about Pecan Springs. We are supporting in some unique ways this semester. We have some of our academics team members there assisting with math and science instruction. We have some additional coaching support for staff. And we have some of our team, a teaching and learning team, helping with small groups and PLCs. So we are really trying to provide wraparound supports right now in the moment. And I just wanted to add that because we don't always, get to say that publicly.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any additional questions?
Hi, I do. Oh.
Trustees Quintana and Gonzalez are on our virtual. Are we good if we take them first?
No, wait.
Okay, perfect. Trustee Quintana, hi.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. I just wanted a little bit more detail on the Rodriguez tip. I know that they will be welcoming White students this year as a part of White TAP. And so I'm just wondering how Rodriguez's tip includes them or factors them in.
Yeah, so Trustee Quintana, one of the things that you bring up a really, really good point. The turnaround plan, the TAP itself, it's meant to be inclusive of both and really is the controlling plan. And so when you look at the TAP plan for Woodane, you're going to see a lot of information around Rodriguez. And so one of the things that I probably need to do a better job of is kind of communicating kind of where there's overlap and where there's maybe a need for additional clarity when it comes to the tips. But that is where most of it lives, because that is what is ultimately going to be the plan that the agency looks for the Rodriguez. Essentially, Wodane's TAP is the TAP for Rodriguez. But I don't know, Jennifer, if anything you want to add to that, we can provide more detail as far as what's in it. But it's just kind of a little bit different because they're coming together.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just going to add that a lot of the strategies that we are using in our targeted improvement plans are similar. You've heard us talk about these with our turnaround plans. They're strategies that are working. It's not rocket science, but it's really utilizing our high quality instructional materials and providing a lot of supports for teachers and PLCs to internalize those lessons, and then building leadership capacity to understand the content, to go in and observe and provide really consistent observation and feedback cycles. This is a big part of both the targeted improvement plans and the turnaround plan. So in that way, the two plans that you mentioned are very similar.
Thank you. I appreciate that explanation. I guess I'm just wondering how, I know that TEA wanted additional details on the White TAP, and if the majority of the Rodriguez tip is in the White TAP, I guess I would just like an update on what changes we're making to the White TAP to make it a plan that TEA would accept. We've had this conversation before in November about how Rodriguez doesn't, on paper doesn't have the space. I know that we are, going to make it work. with the numbers that we have regardless, but space is an issue. Sending kids from White to another failing school is an issue. And so I'm just wondering if we have an update on that TAP, because as you said, it's going to be affecting 2 different schools here.
I can have Lakeisha provide an update on the turnaround plan.
Good afternoon. So with the TAP, we need to be more explicit in the supports. We gave, I think, a minimal explanation. And again, some of it had to do with the template that we have in which we can submit. It doesn't allow for a lot of commentary. And so we're working with the agency on maybe how we could submit maybe an addendum to it. One thing that we are doing with Rodriguez this year is providing extra support through the observation and feedback cycle. And so we're running a pilot with 3 of our elementary schools. And we're really supporting the administration with getting into the classrooms, giving teachers feedback as to what they see, and then providing targeted professional development around that. We are also, again, engaging the principal in strategies to grow teachers according to the needs of the Wadane students that they'll be receiving.
And Lakeisha, is there an expected timeline for resubmission?
March 26th. And so we have drafts. We do want to engage with our TEA partners prior to submission. So we have a couple of individuals from the School Improvement Office that is providing a little more guidance as to what it is that they want to see exactly.
Thank you. Just a couple more questions. I know that, we had a conversation about the numbers and about the, number of kids who have special education needs, and, about there being a space issue. I was wondering if we have reconciled that at all.
So I do know that this special education team, Dr. Lee, they are working on this as far as assignments and space. We are looking at the number of early childhood classrooms that we have there that are occupying space, and if there is a need for as many. So not to get into a totally different presentation, but we are partnering with the county for the Apple Blossom program. And so there is a potential that we may be able to offer some of the early childhood programming at Houston, which is right up the street. So we are in the problem solving phase of it, but we will make it work to receive all of the students.
Thank you. Okay, just one more, I know. I just want to clarify that TEA, the template that we receive and fill out and send back for approval of a plan, that template is given to us from TEA.
Right, it's
That's correct.
Qualtrics survey, yeah.
Okay, and so, adding more detail and things like that is dependent on the template that we get from TEA.
Yeah, so Trustee Quintana, as we build these plans, the teams, the TAPs and the TIPs and really many of these, there's a lot of work that goes in, and it ends up being a very, very big document. And then we have to squeeze that document down into what actually is required to be submitted to the agency. And the reason this happens this way is because many times the executive directors are working with the principals, we're working and getting feedback from the community. So there are different authors of the base data, right? Because it's meant to be drafted closest to the school. And then as we move towards submission date, we review and then pull out the things that are required. But the larger document, which is a working document, is really what informs the work. And that is true for how we've done it with TAPs. The TAPs and the TIPs, the format, it doesn't communicate nearly all the things that we're doing. And I think that's probably what you're getting at. But yeah, it's a template.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Trustee Kaufman is next. Just for noting our time, we're at 6 o'clock. Just FYI, not to cut you off. Just to let
I have a quick procedural question. Did I understand correctly that the TIPs and the LIPs have been submitted and approved by the TEA already?
The tips have, the lips are not submitted, not to be submitted.
Okay, so on the tips, if we're voting to approve those this evening, what would be the consequence if the board chose to not approve one or more of the tips? What would be the process to resubmit or?
Yeah, we would have to amend the tip. Yeah, that's what would have to happen.
Okay, so we could, and then that would be by the March 31 deadline that would have to happen, or what would the timeline be for that?
That's the latest we could submit. And the question would become, does the change from the board or any request actually impact the template that is being submitted? Is maybe there are things that can be added, or things that we can do that aren't required to be incorporated into the template.
Thank you.
Thank you. Trustee Singh.
I'll talk as fast as I can. Okay, so could we pull up the slide number 8 from the Math Star Performance EcoDis? If that's yeah, the first presentation. Yeah.
Yep. Maxwell, you might need to come up here, just as a. I don't know what the question is, but preparing.
Angel.
It's about general stuff.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Yeah.
'Cause I wrote that one down.
Okay. So I really appreciate the superintendent for putting this in the presentation. And I know that we are making a lot of really big movement on this to fix this gap. But I did want to ask you, like, what's happening with 7th grade math? Like 11%, I mean, we're doing less than half, like fewer than half of our economically disadvantaged 7th graders are passing the STAR compared to the state. And so I just wanted to know why that's happening, like specifically. And I don't need like a long, like rambling answer. I just want to know, like, and I really want to hear from you. Like, what do you think is happening with 7th grade math?
With 7th grade math specifically, in the 24-25 school year. So I think there are a couple things. I think middle school and Austin ISD you want a rambling answer, so I'm not going to give you the there are lots of things that are contributing to why students who have been identified as economic disadvantaged are underperforming, right? And it goes to, well, where are schools that have high percentage of students that are economically disadvantaged? Well, many of them are in schools, in parts of Austin that have been historically underserved. So you think back to 22, 23, the number of vacancies that we had, they were disproportionate in that part of town. You think about the transitions that we had that are occurring between 5th grade and 6th grade, and the impact of programming or the misalignment not misalignment, wrong way to say it, the way that we were preparing students in elementary school to be successful in middle school, elementary school to middle school. And then I add on top of that, really where we started our journey as an organization, it was collaborating culture, it was ensuring that we had educators in the classroom, making sure our curriculum met the needs of those educators because they were coming in from different levels, different experiences, building up MTSS so that we had the resources to deploy, so we knew where our students were, identified which ones needed interventions, and then had the resources to get them back onto like grade level performance. And in middle school, and that really, we've talked about this before, like literacy was the start. So we started with literacy, and so I would expect, as far as math outcomes go, and we saw this in early literacy and early numeracy, that math was going to lag. Yeah. And so, I'm certain Maxwell has many other things that she'd like to add to them. One of the things I also know is that, I know this is for math, but across, then we have 4 different curriculum, like for middle school mathematics over the last 5 years. I mean, there's been a lot of change, and I think all of that contributes. 7th grade versus 8th grade, given the cohort. So this cohort, they're now 8th graders, so I'm trying to think about their experience. Do you want to add anything to it? There's a lot of things that contribute.
No, that's helpful. And so, I appreciate that. But, were our inputs into the system that much worse than the rest of the state? That's question I have.
Yeah, it's the pathways for advanced math programming as well.
Overall dip in the state too, in seventh grade math in general, not just
I
for
know, but the
academically
difference from
disadvantaged, but
11% to 24% is what I'm focused on here. Like, were we that much worse than the state? Was our staffing that much worse? Was it
Oh, yeah.
curriculum?
So-
Like, I
so-
don't mean our staff, I mean like the gaps, like the.
Well, so think about where we started in '23, had 30 Fs. I mean, like, we started as an organization in '23 when the board came together as 30 Fs. I mean, we were behind the state in almost every category, I think, in fact. So we've been building and growing out of it. I think this reflects where we were and what we're coming out of.
So I guess, yes, we were.
Oh, yeah.
Like, we were that much,
And
like,
one of
behind.
the things I wanted to show was the previous year.
Yeah.
Right? So I think going 22, 23, 23, 24, showing kind of like what it is, we were behind. And that's why when we talk about the reports we've been given over the last couple of months, and, I think we tried to like highlight it in the presentations, maybe it didn't come through. But yeah, we're on par with the state now in the last two reports that we gave, which is a very positive thing. But when it comes to closing the gaps, especially around students who've been identified as economic disadvantage or Black and brown students, like those gaps are closing faster than the state. So yeah, it was that bad.
well, and when you have those gaps already that exist that are significant, and then you combine that with students who diverge on the on-level pathway versus the advanced pathway, which is what you see in seventh grade math. Very few students are I say very few, much fewer students are taking that test because many have gone on to an advanced math pathway, and that seventh grade math, you see that happen. So when you have gaps, it becomes even more pronounced in situations like that.
Yeah, I mean, this is very sobering. Okay, so this brings me to the point of the importance of us doing that academic baseline plan, because that does actually give us a way to quantify the inputs. I'm not saying, like, we're not, as trustees, we can't tell you these are the things you need to do. We're relying on the staff to figure that out. But like, I feel like as a trustee, I need some way to track these key inputs, the staffing levels, the parental engagement, not just that we're doing certain one-off sessions, but like, I need to know like what percentage of parents are actually reading and understand their kids' MAP scores. That's what I want to know. I don't want to know that we had a session and we did some cool stuff, but just really tell me, are those, of the 89% of kids who did not pass the seventh grade math, did their parents, are they even aware? Like, so when we get,
those are system,
so when we get to our, I look forward to the academic baseline development and the academic vision development, because I think that ties directly. Obviously, like that is my way as a trustee to measure if y'all are kind of investing in creating the inputs that are going to move the needle, and that ties directly to the budget. Like when we vote on a budget, I don't vote on a budget item. There's no budget item that says increase seventh grade math. The budget item is stipends, or it's, parental engagement. It's like, it's different things. And so like, that's what I hope to see, an alignment between the academic vision. Well, the outcomes first and foremost, the vision, and then the budget. I mean, the inputs and the budget. Like, there should be like a really easy way for us to see that. And this just makes it so clear to me that like, I know we're moving in the right direction, so don't take any of this as criticism. I know, and I need to like look at that data again, like as a chaser to this graph, like our latest map data. It's really good. So I'm not like wallowing, and I know we're gonna fix this. But I also need to know, like, as we're entering budget season, I need to know what specifically you're looking at to fix it, how you identify those investments, and so we as a board know what we're voting on to see that's going to result in closed gaps.
Yeah, and the one thing I would say, Trustee Singh, thank you for that comment. And I think this dialogue is fantastic, by the way. Like, I think it's exactly what we should be talking about, because we have been as a system trying to move outcomes, but do it in a way that aligns with who we are, and do it at a time where we have less money. Right, we have lots of disruptions. We had the TA agreed order. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. And we are seeing very encouraging results now in 25, 26. But, it takes 5 years to move the systems. Year in year 3, first year was kind of rough because of all the things we were going through. But in the presentation we gave on the constraint progress measure, I think it was three, where we had accountability, right? And we listed inputs and outputs, inputs and outputs, and we had them categorized, and we got feedback from the trustees. So we track all these things. Some of them contribute in different ways. Some of them contribute to different schools in different ways. And so one of the things that I think is going to be really helpful is as we go through them, recognizing that a school in one part of town might be impacted by one of the inputs differently than another part of town. And that's just the honest truth. We see that all the time, whether it's a principal or the vacancies, and they're still higher performing schools and students are still growing. So that's, I think, a great conversation to have, and we are eager to have it. Dr. Maxwell is going to be leading that work with me. We have meetings coming up now that the board officers have been identified that will move forward very quickly. But I think going back to the early numeracy and early literacy reports, and then to the constraint progress measure around reducing the number of Fs, the data that we were showing, I think that is one really good place to think about as we move forward.
Oh, yeah, like I said, I'm going to look at that, pull up those graphs as a chaser to this one, because I know we're doing better. So thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions? Okay, I would love, I really appreciate looking at that side-by-side state data and local data, and I think it's a valuable lens that we don't always talk about when we talk about our monitoring reports, and really personally would love to see that as a supplemental page or something, because I think it's really helpful context to get a sense with our if we just chose economically disadvantaged students. I know when we take all students, it masks what we have, but thank you for that conversation. And then the second thing is, I had a lot of questions about the targeted improvement plans and local improvement plans. Those were attached. Thank you to all the people who answered them. They were really thoughtful answers. And they get to a lot of things about why some have a lot of detail, some seem really checkboxy, why some of them say the board has already approved them on March 26th, even though that day has not happened yet. And kind of why there's some things in there that seem odd, right, to our community. And so I think I would love for those questions. I know you attach them to our information session. I would love to have them attached here too for anyone who's going to look at those. That would be very helpful. So I think my questions were, similar on that to Trustee Kaufman's question, and we want people to understand that a hearing has meaning, right? We don't want, this doesn't need to be performative, it needs to be meaningful, and I understand why we turn them in early, but I think it would be helpful to let people see the answers to those questions as well. So thank you for that. Thank you for everyone who did all the work. Any additional questions on this? All right. Thank you all. At this time, we will adjourn our public hearing at 6:14 p.m., take a short break, and then return to open our regular voting meeting. Secretary Foster, do I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
So moved. Meeting is adjourned at 6:14 p.m.